Imagine finding out your entire marriage was a meticulously crafted lie, not just because your wife was cheating, but because she was doing it with your friend. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow, a cold, brutal shock that fractured my world into a million pieces. It all started so beautifully. We met 5 years ago, at a mutual friend's wedding. I was 22, she was a year younger, Mia. The moment I saw her, I was completely captivated. They sat us together, playing matchmakers, and it worked. We clicked instantly, talking for hours, dancing the night away, and sharing a passionate kiss right there on the dance floor. Our friends, the bride and groom, were ecstatic. We left without exchanging numbers, but a week later, a text popped up from her. The bride had given her my number. Of course, I said yes, and just like that, a relationship blossomed. For 2 incredible years, it was perfect. We rarely fought, and when we did, it was over silly, insignificant things. I was so smitten, so sure, that I asked her to marry me. Less than a year later, we tied the knot. We were married for just over a year when my world came crashing down. Leading up to our first anniversary, little things started to niggle at me. Her phone became a secret vault, girls' nights were suddenly more frequent than our own dates, and our sex life? Practically non-existent. I tried to talk to her, multiple times, pouring out my fears, only to be brushed off. "You're just being insecure," she'd say, dismissing my feelings as if they meant nothing. And when someone you love makes you feel invisible, you start to recede. I grew colder, stopped giving her goodbye kisses, and our conversations dwindled to barely a whisper. One night, as she slept soundly beside me, I made a decision. Call it intuition, call it desperation. I needed to know. I cautiously went through her phone and laptop, nothing. Then, remembering stories I'd read online, a chilling thought hit me: the car. I grabbed her keys, went outside, and there it was, tucked away, a second phone. In that instant, a cold certainty washed over me. I knew. But knowing wasn't enough. I needed undeniable proof. I didn't want her to deny it, to spin some pathetic story about a one-time mistake. I unlocked the phone. There was only one number. I scrolled through every message, every photo, every sickening detail of their secret life. The fury boiled within me, but I kept it controlled, methodical. I connected the phone to my computer, printing out everything. That entire night, I researched divorce lawyers. Hours blurred as I pored over bios, finally finding one I liked and sending an email, knowing I wouldn't hear back until Monday. But I still didn't know who. I typed the number into my own phone, pretending to be a Spectrum representative, because who doesn't have Spectrum? And then it happened. Jack's contact photo popped up. Jack. My friend. My world exploded. A primal scream ripped through me, but it was trapped in my throat, just raw, guttural rage. I was yelling, cursing, pounding my desk. Mia, woken by the commotion, opened the office door. The moment I saw her face, I snarled, "Get the F out." She slammed the door shut and retreated to our room. I had never, not once, cursed at her or raised my voice. The rest of the day was a blur of silent, simmering anger. I just stared at the wall, radiating pure, unadulterated fury. I called Ted, the friend who introduced us at the wedding, and told him I needed a drink. He must have heard the tremor in my voice because he immediately asked if I was okay. "No," I rasped, "I'm not. I need a drink, now." Without another word, I grabbed all the printouts and headed for the bar. I arrived first, ordered 4 shots of Jack. The irony was not lost on me, even in my haze, and a beer. Ted walked in as I was on my last shot. "What's going on?" he asked, his brow furrowed with concern. "Mia's cheating," I stated, flatly. His face fell in sympathy. "Want to know with who?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. "Jack." Ted was visibly shaken. He was the one who'd introduced me to Jack. "I'm sorry," he kept repeating, over and over. Jack and I weren't best friends, but we were friendly. The kind of people who'd chat at gatherings. I told Ted to keep it quiet. I hadn't even spoken to Mia or a lawyer yet. I specifically asked him not to tell his wife, to say I was having work problems if she asked. He agreed. We drank and talked for hours. I finally called an Uber and got home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I checked my phone since calling Ted. A barrage of missed calls and texts from Mia, asking where I was, if I was okay. I found her asleep on the couch, but I just walked past her, went to our bedroom, and collapsed. The next morning, I woke to find her beside me. I got dressed, left the house, picked up my car, and buried myself in work. I didn't get home until 10 p.m. To my surprise, she was there, waiting, telling me she'd made dinner. "Do you want me to heat it up?" she asked. "No," I said, and went straight to bed. She followed, pestering me. "What's wrong? Why are you acting like this?" I told her to leave me alone, that I wanted to sleep. She kept pushing, kept badgering. Eventually, I snapped. "Mia, stop. I'm trying to sleep. Go away." The next morning, an email from the lawyer. He could meet later that day. I confirmed. Downstairs, Mia had made breakfast and wanted to talk. I took a small plate and sat. She started, droning on about how I'd changed and she wanted to know why. "Work's been stressful," I said, my voice carefully neutral, "but it'll all be over soon." I finished my food and left for the office, counting down the minutes until my meeting. I told my assistant I was going to lunch with a client. My wife often called work. The meeting went well. I handed over the mountain of evidence I'd gathered. The lawyer was impressed. "I'm sorry for everything you're going through," he said, "but I'm glad you got all this. We live in a fault state, so your wife won't have a claim on most of your money." I hadn't even considered that aspect, I was just desperate to divorce her. He wanted to keep the originals, but I insisted on copies. "I haven't told her I know yet," I explained. "I don't want to hear her excuses." He agreed, his assistant made the copies. "When will she be served?" I asked. "About 2 weeks," he replied. I thanked him and left. It was time to confront Mia. I went home, but she wasn't there. I called, no answer. Called again, nothing. My patience evaporated. I texted her, "I don't give a f if you're writing Jack right now, get home. We need to talk." Lo and behold, my phone rang less than a minute later. "What are you talking about?" she stammered. "Get home." "Now," I said, my voice ice cold. She arrived about 15 minutes later, looking confused. "Wow, 15 minutes, I said, a cruel smile playing on my lips. "That's about the same distance between here and Jack's, isn't it?" Her face went blank. I gave her a minute, but she just stared. "Well, nothing to say?" I asked. She tried to deny, to gaslight me, but I just let her ramble. She worked herself into a frenzy, started insulting me. I slammed my fist on the table, the sharp crack echoing in the silent house, cutting her off mid-sentence. I pulled out the binder, showing her the side first. "Look at this mountain of evidence I gathered on you." Then, slowly, deliberately, I showed her each printout. Her bravado crumbled. "Stop," she cried, tears streaming down her face. She tried to apologize, to tell me she loved me. "Honey," I said, my voice dripping with scorn, "what happened to all that energy you had just a minute ago? You were so adamant on degrading and insulting me." She reached for me, but I held up my hand. "Don't touch me," I warned. "We can go to the bedroom," she whispered, "do whatever you like." I looked her deep in her eyes. "Sweetheart," I said, each word a hammer blow, "I will never touch you again. Do you want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I'm divorcing you. Now, get a bag, gather your clothes, and get the F out of my house. By the way, if you're still with me and finding this story unbelievable, make sure to hit that subscribe button. More raw, honest stories are coming your way." That was 3 days ago. I haven't heard from her since. Your advice after my first post was invaluable, so I immediately got to work. First, an STD test, scheduled for 2 days later. You can never be too careful. Then, I started telling everyone close to me, my father, a few friends. They were all incredibly supportive, offering help, but I assured them I had this crap on lock. Next, her family. I texted her parents, thanking them for letting me into their family, but Mia and I were divorcing, and I'd missed them terribly. Honestly, they were suffocating, so it was a huge relief. I told them to ask any questions. No immediate response, so I moved to Mia's sister, Emma. This one hurt. Emma and I were genuinely good friends. I knew this would shatter that. Hey, I texted, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Mia and I are getting a divorce. I wanted you to know. Thank you for accepting me as a brother from day one. I'll be around if you ever need anything. Around that time, her parents finally responded. The conversation went something like this: Parents, we're so sorry to hear this. What happened? Why hasn't Mia said anything to us? Mia has been in at least a year-long affair. I suspect it started before our wedding. I'm not sure why she hasn't reached out, but I think you should call her. She left the house, I figured she would have gone to you. Parents, no, we haven't heard from her. We'll call her. Thanks for letting us know. Are you sure she was having an affair? I am positive. I found their texts. Parents, we're so sorry she did that. We'll try and get in touch with her. With her family dealt with, I turned my attention to Jack's fiancée. I knew from the comments on my first post that many of you were wondering about her. I expected Mia and Jack to have some master plan to deny everything, but they must have been complete idiots, or Mia hadn't even told him I knew. I texted her around 2 p.m., asking to meet for coffee. By 2:05, she'd agreed, suggesting some gross hipster coffee shop across from her work at 2:30. I arrived first, ordered my terrible coffee, and waited. She walked in, ordered hers, and joined me. There's no easy way to say this, I began, so I'm just going to blurt it out. Jack has been cheating on you with my wife. It's been going on for more than a year. Her shock was palpable. I only found out a few days ago, I continued. I know I should have told you then, but I had a divorce to get started and my own pity to deal with. She asked how I found out, and I told her everything, just like I did in my first post. Do you want to see the evidence? I asked, pulling out the binder. She grabbed it, skimmed through the messages and pictures, and just started to silently cry. You're more than welcome to take it, I told her, extra copies if you want to confront Jack or see if he'll lie. She thanked me, stood up, took the binder, and left, looking utterly defeated. You all told me to stay sober and level-headed, but my world had just crashed down. I decided to take that week to sit on my back porch, drink, smoke cigars, and blast music. After that, I promised myself I'd stop feeling sorry and get back to my routine. On a more positive note, I'd already packed most of her things, clothes, jewelry, our wedding album, every photo with her in it. When she eventually came for her stuff, I wanted her in my house for as little time as possible. And no, I didn't ruin her clothes. A few picture frames got broken, but that was it. My doctor's appointment was set, my lawyer was hard at work, and 90% of her things were boxed up. If she stayed out of my hair, this might just be the smoothest divorce ever. I'd been indulging in my pity party, drinking, and more drinking. I'd say it was my first semi-sober moment in what felt like forever, and I couldn't really put into words how I felt. Numb, I guess. The only person who hadn't responded to my text was Emma, Mia's sister, who I was very close to. That night, after posting my update, I continued my binge and passed out on my back patio. I woke up to the smell of breakfast cooking. My first thought was, oh Christ, Mia's back, and she thinks breakfast will fix everything. Rage surged through me. I threw myself out of the chair, ready for a screaming match. But to my surprise, it was Emma. I just stood there, trying to calm myself. When she saw I was awake, she sprinted to me, wrapping her arms around me. She didn't say a word, just took my hand, led me to the table, and put a plate in front of me. As I ate, she apologized, explaining that when Mia first showed up at her house, she just said we were having problems and it would be fine in a few days.
Then, after my text about the divorce, Emma had asked Mia, if it'll be fine, why is he divorcing you? Apparently, Mia just broke down and told Emma everything. I scoffed. No way she told you everything.
I then proceeded to tell her my side of the story.
Emma admitted Mia had spun it as a one-time thing and that I was blowing it out of proportion.
I told Emma, point blank, that I had no intention of getting back together with Mia. If that's why she was here, she was wasting her time. And if she was in contact with Mia, she needed to tell her to find a lawyer.
Emma laughed. I'm not here for my sister. I'm here for you.
She assured me she'd always be there for her sister, but that we were friends, and she wouldn't abandon me, especially when I'd done nothing wrong. I stood up, went to her side of the table, and just hugged her. I had been so worried that all this BS would ruin our friendship. Hearing her say that made me feel so much better. Emma stayed with me for 2 days, in the guest bedroom. She left this morning as I was preparing to head to my cabin, a place I owned before the marriage, so Mia couldn't touch it. I was gathering my hunting and fishing gear when she asked if she could join. As much as I wanted her to, I told her she should probably go check on her sister. She agreed, hugged me, and left.
I'm truly grateful for Emma.
And no, she's not into me. She's 20, way too young, and it's just a really great friendship. Oh, and I almost forgot, the doctor's results should be in on Monday. I've reached out to Jack's fiancée a few times. She says she's fine but doesn't know what to do. I told her if she wants to meet and vent, I'm happy to listen. Good news from the cabin, I got a buck, a nice fat 8-pointer, on my first day. That left me the rest of the trip to fish, only 2, but decent size. I ate one and butchered the other. I spent the rest of my stay cleaning the deer and enjoying nature. Other than a drink or 2 a day, I stayed sober, just as I'd promised myself. My doctor called, all clear. Not a huge shock, considering Mia and I hadn't had passionate nights in months, but it was a relief nonetheless. I reached out to Jack's fiancée again. She eventually responded, telling me she was staying with her family. She didn't go into detail, but I assumed things weren't going well with Jack. At least she was safe and supported. I offered to help in any way. She asked to meet for coffee the next day, which I, of course, agreed to. We met at that same gross hipster coffee shop and talked for about 2 hours. She wanted to know about my divorce plans, if I'd reconcile. After someone cheats, in my book, that's it, I told her. The selfishness and disrespect it takes to cheat, let alone for a year, she obviously didn't care for me. I asked her what her plan was. She was completely confused, everything she thought was true had turned out to be lies. She wasn't sure if she should move on or forgive him. If you can forgive someone for cheating on you for that long, I said, you're a better person than me. She admitted her family was telling her to forgive him and still get married. I decided to be blunt. Just because your family wants something doesn't mean you have to follow along. Jack clearly doesn't care about marriage or what it means. He cheated on you, his fiancée, with my wife. If that doesn't scream not marriage material, I don't know what does. I told her she needed to do what she thought was right, not let anyone else make decisions that would affect her life. When I found out, I tried to trick my heart, my brain, into finding a way to accept it, to forgive. But I couldn't. I told her, I only talked to one person, but I had already made my decision, and no one could change my mind. I bet when you went to stay with your family, you had a pretty good idea of what you were going to do, but you let too many people in, and they all gave their own take on it. I finished by telling her to follow her gut. Your brain and heart will always lie to you, but if your gut feels something's off, 9 out of 10 times, your gut's probably right. She thanked me, and we parted ways. The next day, a message from my lawyer, Mia had successfully been served at work. I thanked him for his incredible speed. Not long after, Emma called. Mia hadn't left her room all day, just sobbing in bed. I told her Mia had been served, and was probably realizing the extent of her screw-up. Emma and I chatted for a bit, then hung up. Now, I waited. I prepared myself, and my house, for Mia's inevitable explosion. I figured now that she'd been served, it was coming soon.
I had Advil on standby for the headache I knew was brewing. My friend Ted agreed, if Mia showed up, he'd race over to be a witness. I was waiting for Hurricane Mia. About an hour after I posted my last update, I was still waiting for Mia to show up and go ballistic. I had no real reason to think she would, but given everything, I barely knew the woman I married anymore. I double-checked all my cameras, inside and out. I called Ted, told him Mia was served and to get over here if she showed up. I was not going to jail because of this woman. Turns out, I was right. Mia showed up, banging on the door, screaming to be let in. I immediately called Ted and Emma. She was cursing my name, begging me, calling me every name in the book, and demanding to know how I could be so heartless. She wasn't wrong, because the entire time she was screaming, all I could do was laugh. I wondered why she didn't just walk in, she still had keys, or so I thought. When Ted arrived, she was still screaming. He started recording on his phone, staying in his truck. But this idiot brought his wife, Mia's friend. Mia's friend got out, trying to calm her down, putting her arms around Mia, trying to talk to her. Mia then slapped her across the face, screaming at her to mind her own business. That was it for Ted. He had it on video and called the police. Mia continued to scream and curse until the police arrived. When they did, she immediately tried to play the victim. One officer walked up to her, and she started to cry, telling them I'd hit her and thrown her out of the house. Ted and his wife told the other officer that when they arrived, Mia was already yelling and banging, so they couldn't confirm her accusations against me. After that officer was done, he came to my door. When I opened it, Mia shrieked, "There! That's him! He hit me! I want him arrested!" The officer started to put me in cuffs, but I stopped him. "I can prove she's lying," I said. "All I need is my phone." He paused, and I showed him the footage from my outside cameras. After reviewing the video, he apologized for jumping to conclusions. He told me they'd received 15 calls from my neighbors, and Mia had screamed, "He hit me." So they'd already made their judgment. After dealing with the police for about half an hour, Mia ended up in cuffs, charged with disturbing the peace, public intoxication, and a DUI. As they led her to the car, Emma showed up. "What happened?" she asked. I showed her the video. The officer handed me the case number and paperwork. Emma started asking about the charges, so I went back inside, Emma following. She sat next to me, explaining she'd only left her house for 10 minutes to run to the store. When she got back, Mia wasn't in the living room, so Emma assumed she'd gone to bed after drinking too much wine. We talked for a while. She asked if she could stay the night, and I said she was welcome any time. She told me Mia had to spend the night in jail, they could bail her out in the morning. Emma had called her parents to let them know what was happening and see if they could bail her out, since Emma didn't have that kind of money. We had a beer and went to bed. When I woke, Emma had already left to meet her parents. I haven't heard from Mia, Emma, or her parents since, but I don't think it was a fun conversation. I still haven't heard from Mia, but her lawyer finally contacted mine, letting him know he'll be representing her. Finally, we can start this process. I also reached out to Jack's fiancée. She texted back that she'd kicked him out. Her father and brother had packed all his things and dropped them off at his house. She said her dad and brother wanted to beat him, but she asked them not to, she just wants to move on. She thanked me for checking in and said her close friends were there for her. I sent her the link to my Reddit page so she could see all the support you all have given both of us. On Friday, the moment I got off work, I raced home. My plan was to go back to my cabin for the weekend. Emma was in my driveway. She wanted to grab Mia's things and had a list of what my wife expected. I skimmed through it. All but one item was already in a box or in my garage, waiting to be picked up. "I'm not transporting or touching anything in here," I told her. "I'm not going to be responsible if Mia claims I destroyed her stuff." I offered to pay for a moving company to pack and take everything, because I was going to my cabin and didn't have time for Mia's crap. She said that would be great and hoped I had fun. She took a box of Mia's clothes and put it in her car. Then she turned to me and asked if she could tag along this time. Sure, I said. Why don't you go back home, drop off the box, and pack a bag? By the time I went to the store and packed my truck, she was pulling up. I locked up the house, and we took off for the cabin. The weekend was fantastic. Last time I was up there, I realized what a gem that place is. Beautiful views, completely secluded, a place you can truly breathe and relax. On Monday, I called a moving company. By Tuesday, 3 guys in a big truck pulled up. I had every box open and recorded them as they closed it and picked it up. I took pictures of all the furniture and recorded the movers loading it. I thanked them for tolerating me and tipped them each an extra $50. Then I sent all the recordings and pictures to my lawyer and carried on with my day. The house feels empty, but also clean without all her things. My lawyer told me not to get rid of anything shared, so I put most of the furniture in a storage unit. I've been sleeping in the guest room since she left, and I've been buying all new furniture. I'll probably keep the old stuff in the garage now that I have the space. I won't be keeping the house, even if I win it in the divorce, it holds too many bad memories. It's been a while since I posted. I coach high school baseball, so between this divorce, dealing with my soon-to-be ex, and coaching these kids, free time is rare. Quite a bit has happened, so bear with me. A few days after the movers took her things, my lawyer received paperwork claiming I damaged her belongings and demanding $1,500, or she'd take me to court. My lawyer sent hers all the videos and pictures, asking exactly where the damages were. He told me this just shows the judge how unhinged she is. It might be a headache now, but it's perfect evidence for court. I don't think her lawyer was ready for how meticulous I am. When I found out about Mia's affair, I was, for some reason, drawn to this page. I read all the horror stories, and I absolutely refuse to be another one. I've prepared myself for almost every outcome and accusation. I wouldn't put anything past her. Mia called me once every other day, but I never picked up. If she left a voicemail, I didn't bother listening, I just sent it straight to my lawyer. Every time I send him something, he always says, "You are a lawyer's wet dream. You listen to everything I say, you gathered a mountain of evidence on your own." I have yet to have a client that has done so well. He wasn't exaggerating, and it puts a smile on my face every time. That reassurance from him just makes this whole situation a little bit better. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, my lawyer told me we had enough evidence to bury her outside of court, and if that failed, it would look good on us for trying. So, we set a date a week ago to meet in a neutral lawyer's office. Before we met, he told me, no matter what, do not react to anything Mia might say. Everything will be recorded for a judge to read if it goes to court. We arrived early. To my surprise, she was already there, waiting with her lawyer. We walked in, the lawyers greeted each other, and Mia and I sat in silence. Mia's lawyer started by asking what we had to offer. Mine scoffed. With a mountain of evidence of infidelity and Mia's inappropriate behavior, the only thing we'll offer is half of the selling price of the home and half of the savings account. That's more than any judge would award you. Basically, what you came into the marriage with, you'll be leaving with. Then he looked directly at Mia, his voice cutting like a knife. If you decide to go to court, I will put every message up there, making you read it all out loud. Then I will put every photo up for the court to see, and make you describe in detail what you're doing in each photo. Then I'll bring up your recent charges and play the video that was taken that night. Mia started to tear up, looking at me, asking if there was anything she could do to make this right. My voice was cold, devoid of any emotion. You've been cheating on me since before our wedding. All I can prove is a few weeks before, but I suspect it was much longer. There is nothing at all you could possibly do to make me forget or forgive you for what you've done. Sign the papers. It's more than you deserve, and I want to be done with this whole sham you created. She cried obnoxiously for 15 minutes, eventually excusing herself to the restroom. When she returned, still in tears, she signed the papers and walked out not long after. So, in about a month, everything will be filed, and all I'll have left to do is sell the house. This whole ordeal, this catastrophic betrayal by the 2 people I trusted most, has been devastating. But I came out of it with my head held high, my dignity intact, and a fierce resolve to never be anyone's fool again.
I'm starting fresh, rebuilding, and focusing on a future that's truly my own. So, tell me, after hearing all this, what would you have done in my place? Have you ever had to face such a profound betrayal? I really want to know what you think.